Hi, this is Mary Kay. Today we're painting a giraffe that I took a picture of, or my husband took a picture of, in South Africa in April. I really like this picture because his tongue is out and he's eating these leaves, and the giraffes eat these bushes with the tiny little leaves because they're high in protein. And then these are the mountains between Johannesburg and the reserve that I forget the name of. And it's in the bush, and it's the end of the summer, so it's green. So I traced it using water-soluble tracing paper. And I have a shadow right there. Okay, so here I go. I think that I'm going to start with the background today. I'm going to start with a 3/4 inch flat brush and paint the sky and that mountain. I'm going to put the bushes in after the giraffe is done. Oops. And I'm trying to decide if I want to paint this down here too. I think I will. I'll paint it all the way to the part where it disappears into the bush. So this is water, and I'm checking to see that I've covered it all. Now I'm gonna go with my museum brush and go closer. I'm going around the tongue and around the nose and around. I'm gonna have to figure out what they call those little antler things, but this is in such a position that we can only see one and one ear, but I usually like to have 3/4 view, but because he's reaching up for the tongue, it makes it all worth it to me. So I'm gonna paint this all, and I'm gonna leave, gonna do this very foreground. Okay, I'm gonna start with Antwerp Blue. There's a lot of green in there's a lot of yellow in my Antwerp Blue, so it's not that. You know what? I'm gonna change my mind. Partly because my Antwerp is dirty, and partly because I'm gonna start with Cerulean instead. So I've gone back to my 3/4 inch brush. This is my Cerulean. Oh, Cerulean is kind of chalky. Well, I'm gonna go for it. So I'm painting these brush strokes at long back and forth motions, like you might see the sky. I'm gonna bring this down into the mountain. And if I have that color blue on one side of his head, it needs to be on the other side of his head. I can paint his tongue right over this blue because the tongue is black. Now I'm gonna go to my, I'm softening this little bit of sky with water because for some reason it already had dried a little bit. And now I'm going to paint this mountain here. I don't know if you can see what I'm pointed to. I'm going to paint this mountain in here. I raised it up. I made it a little bigger. And that's going to be Cerulean with a little bit of French. I can use that Antwerp. It's just a darker blue, really. it's going to, because this is wet into wet, this is going to blur and fade. This is the bush here, going around it. Make a little more, so. And I'm going to have this part of the mountain come right to his forehead and then pick up over on the other side of his chin and then go out. This is kind of drying out here down here. I'm going to go around his little horn. And if it's that color blue on that side of the little horn, it has to be on that side. And then around his ear. I'm leaving his ear and his horn white. And then his neck. So I need to have this blue the same color on both sides of the neck. Then it can sort of change. I actually don't mind that this got more blurry. I'm just going to leave it like that, just a little blurry. Now I'm going to make this green, and I'm going to paint this green. This green is going to be Burnt Sienna and Antwerp Blue. This is going to make a dark earthy green. And I'm just going to start by his neck. I'm going to sort of try to get this to blur in, blend into that blue mountain above it. But I do want to have the same color on both sides of the neck. Trying to make it look bushy up there. And then this is going to be, this is going to be smaller dark leaves when I get those up there. Okay, I'm going to keep going. Just, this is going to be a spot where some leaves come over the giraffe right in here, so I'll just sort of put a few greens there now. Making more. This is Antwerp and Burnt Sienna still. This is starting to dry already. Going around his mane. I want my background to be not very distinct. I'm painting a giraffe and the background is just going to be soft, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time painting detail. I don't want any detail in it. I do want color changes though. So now I'm going to go into my Antwerp in the same puddle and then clean out my brush, get into my yellow and add yellow to that and get a different color green going. And I'm just gonna start adding it in a little bit. I'm gonna go down to his back, carefully going around that. And you probably know what I'm gonna say. If it's this color green, on that side of his back. It needs to be this colored green over here. And now I'm just mixing up whatever's in my palette, bringing this down around his leg. Shadows will be our friend later. So I'm just using what paint I have left and sort of making it all different heights and shapes. And then I'm liking that little watermarks that are happening in there. I like that there's some light areas that I didn't paint at all because it shows like the bush is dark and yet the sun is glinting off some of it. Okay, so I'm going to go around the tail here and then even in between the tail with this very fine tip of this brush. And you know, I feel like just carrying on now with the bottom of the foreground and putting all the background in. This is the very foreground. It is a much lighter green, a lot of white. So I'm going to use my pure yellow and add just this, put that into that puddle, and I get this, yeah, that color green, which is sort of this color that I'm seeing. And that's his leg. I made his leg green. Goes up under his tummy. I don't know if this is a male or a female, but I like this color. So these leaves are going over the giraffe's legs so that we don't have to paint the hooves. We don't have to paint the bottom of the leg. We don't have to figure out the bottom of the tail. I lost my tail. Okay, I'm gonna go more now down here. I'm leaving white. So I'm just kind of pushing really hard and sort of, they call this scrumbling. And you're just painting like this. It does look sort of leafy. The leaving the white area makes it look like the light's glinting off those leaves. I think I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna make a little bit, I'm gonna make some more dark green, Burnt Sienna and Antwerp Blue. I almost said French Ultra, but I meant Antwerp. I just keep mixing these two until I get the color green I want, sort of teal. Because I do see, so this is in shadow here. The giraffe's in shadow on this side. So I'm gonna put some darks in there. And there's some shadows back in here. They're not solid, but they're there. And there's some right here. And there's some over here. So I'm just putting some darks into those greens. I can put a few of these here because I know this bush is coming in front of the giraffe. Just using the side of my brush. I don't want those to be all the same. They need to be different. Now I'm going to scrumble a little bit more in here. Down in this corner. I'm going to sign my name with my signer. I think here's a good spot. Still a little bit damp. I'm digging into the slightly damp paper. I'm writing like this is a pencil. I'm just writing Mary Kay S. period. Jolly. Ugh, the sound of it scraping to the paper's killing my teeth right there. So I'm just gonna take some of my color and go over that, and it should really show up. The paint will go right into the little areas that I made, the little dentations that I made. I do like there's white showing. Okay, I'm gonna stop there. Okay, actually I like that background. So now I'm going to start painting all of the dark areas on the giraffe. This giraffe is not perfectly white. All the little areas between the spots are just kind of just, you know, there. It looks like burnt sienna, and it's a tiny, tiny bit of, little bit of burnt sienna. I'm gonna clean this yellow up. So I have a good spot for my burnt sienna, and I'm just gonna go in, and you need a brush that has a nice tip. It can be a smaller one like this. This is a 1, I think. But I'm gonna try my my museum brush. So the top of his head, that's kind of, looks like it should be a little darker brown. Excuse me, that seems a little too red. And I'm gonna soften it. I'm gonna go out to the tip of his little horn, whatever it is. Okay, I see his tongue. And here's his nose. Does have a nostril. His mouth is open and his tongue is coming out. This part of his face is pretty white. I'm not going to leave it pure like the paper. I'm going to put the tiniest bit of French Ultramarine Blue into that French and just put the tip of his ear a little darker. I'll even a little more. Okay. I live right by the Half Moon Bay Airport, and Dream Machines is this weekend, so planes are starting to fly in already. Okay, there's a little bit of shadow here under his jaw. It's actually darker than that. I'll come back in, and I'm going to make the tongue nice and black. And that's the start. There's some spots here. His eye is black. His ear is mostly white, and it has the inside of it is pretty dark. You know, it might be easier just to use sepia or neutral tint to get those real darks. I'm just, okay, that's dry, so I can put the eye in. I don't want it to go wet. Okay, so they have pretty big eyes. We're not going to see a glint this far away. Should I do his tongue? I want to do his tongue right now. They have black tongues. All right, and then his inside his ear is very dark because it's in shadow. And then there's a shadow of his ear on his fur right here, so I'll just put that shadow in now. Okay, now I'm going to keep going. I'm going to use Burnt Sienna and French Ultramarine Blue worked into it so I can get all these different shades of darks, browns, Burnt Sienna and French Ultramarine Blue can make the most. They make such an amazing amount of different colors. So that is too red. So I'm going to go back in with my Burnt Sienna and French rather than just Burnt Sienna. I'm sort of putting little lines with my brush on the edge of this. And it gets a little bit redder down here at the bottom. I'm gonna cover it. Okay, so there's his little mane, and it seems a little bit redder right where it hits the fur of his neck. Okay, now the tedious part is just to fill in all of these spots. So giraffes, as they age, they get darker and darker. So the spots up around his neck and on this part of his back are darker. So you can tell the age of a giraffe by how dark it is. I don't think this is a very dark giraffe. I think this giraffe is just a few years old. Not that I'm a giraffe expert, but my guide was, well, that's what my guide said, so we're gonna go with that. Okay, so this was, supposedly this was the shadow, and now I'm just gonna start doing some, I don't have to do, you know, I wonder if I'm not sure, I don't know, but it makes me wonder if the spots on a giraffe are all different. Every giraffe has a separate, like a fingerprint, like zebras are never the same. Wouldn't be surprised. Okay, so, all right, so just tedious. Good thing, if I put this on the YouTube, which I plan to do, you'll just be able to just speed right through this. And then you'll be at the end. So these spots right here on the back, right here at the back of it, are darkest. So I'm making that with Burnt Sienna and French. These guys are dark. I drew these so carefully now, I'm just making little spots with my brush. Okay, the dots on the tail are fading. They don't have as much paint, so I'll do it like that. Okay, so now I'm going to go back in with more Burnt Sienna and less French and make the spots a little redder. These, actually, I'm not sure I have the right color on these. So just have to just take your time. You can also put this color in all the spots and then go in and just put another layer of French over it, or some sepia or neutral tint, and not be changing your colors as you go, just kind of get it all painted in. Did anybody make a giraffe costume for, anybody else make a giraffe costume? I made one for my son, I think in, I don't know, preschool. I used little brown pieces and Tried to stick them to a sweatshirt, but they all fell off. It's probably still in the hall closet. Not that much of a hoarder, but you just never know. You might need those little pieces of brown, or I might have gotten rid of them and then later I'll be like, did I get rid of those? That's the other thing I do. Okay, so around this leg in front, you can see that this part of this fur is white and the belly is darker right here and then dark right here. So I want to try to get that this is actually the belly doesn't have spots. It's sort of gray down here. Dark. It's kind of dark gray. All right. And then this leg has shadow and burnt sienna and grass over it. So I had no idea how tedious this was going to be. All right, I'm going to start hurrying because I'm getting bored painting these dots. You know, maybe another way to do this would be to use PBO to go over all the white areas and then just sort of paint it all in one little swoop. I could go at it that way. I can't do that in class though, because if we're going to sketch it, it just takes too long to do PBO. So this part here is in the shadow, so I've gone, this is French and burnt sienna right here. Yeah, this part of the neck. Yeah, there is a shadow on the neck here. So it goes all the way up. It's nice and dark up here on his jawline. So I'm going to go over that again. And at the bottom of his lip. And then it's shadowed just on this side. Just a little line. Barely capturing that. Okay. And then this, I've almost got them all. I think I just have right in here to go with all my spots. Okay. And right here is dark shadow. This part of the leg's in shadow. And then it's got a bunch of grass there. And then this has a bunch of little dots that are kind of faded, so. And I'm going to put some little dots here that are faded too. Okay. let's see, I think right here needs some dark, and then I think I've got it, and I'm gonna, okay, so this is some dark. So the different colors of the spots are different amounts of French Ultramarine Blue and Burnt Sienna. So if I want it dark, I put in more French Ultramarine Blue. If I want it orange or lighter, I just put in less French Ultramarine Blue and just kind of keep it all Burnt Sienna. So stomach, what's going on here? Sort of soften, I don't know exactly. This looks like it needs to be a spot. We'll do that, we'll turn that into a spot. Spot, spot, okay. How about in here? A little bit more in here. We'll do spots. They're very, very irregular, so you have to be so careful painting these in that you don't start to get sloppy and just make 3 squares in a row like I did right here. You have to keep them irregular. Okay, I'm gonna call that good. How's his face? Do I need to do any more work on his face? Let's do this. Let's darken that. Let's put some more spots, and let's put like a little eyelid over. Spots in here. That's a little better face. Okay. I'm going to very bravely just take a little bit of Burnt Sienna with water and go over this, all over the white areas, just so the paper's not pure white. So like right here is pretty white, but here and there is white, but so it's really just light. The ear's pretty white. But here, this is in the shadow, and then it gets white. Okay, so I think that was a good amount to do to it, because we still know that was a mistake I did with the brush, the very first. But so this is better that that's not pure white. All right, I'm just going to put some more grass in. I'm going to take out my Burnt Sienna now so I can make my light greens, and I'm going to just do some flicking or some, I don't know how I'm going to do this yet. I definitely have to put the, okay, so the dark I'm just trying to make it look like grass in the laziest way I can, doing the least amount of painting. I do like the splatter. I'm covering up. Oh, I got it in the sky. Okay, so I need a bunch of birds in the sky now. Now I'm going to make dark green. Dark green almost always for me is Burnt Sienna and Antwerp Blue. I just think it makes just the most beautiful green. Okay, now here's where he's, woo! Okay, so this really would be a good place to flick. Here, let's do it like this. All right. Yeah. Oh, you know what would work well too is if we had a spray bottle and just sprayed that a little bit. Oh, let's try it. I do have a spray bottle. I'm just gonna spray this spot here. And now I'm going to try to flick it some more and get it into those little, might be too much flicks. Okay, I'm gonna touch it on the side of my brush. So these are tiny, tiny little leaves and they're dark green. Okay, so I flicked up here, so I'm gonna kind of include those. And then we need to scrape. Can either get a tiny little brush or we can get a let's try this. This is a cut up credit card. So I'm trying to, so one of the things I'm noticing is that this tree goes really behind him. Let's get more out here and make it go kind of like one little piece has to go woohoo. And I'm gonna scrape. So I'm trying to make the branches of this tree. I can go in with a dark. I can make my own dark, which is French Ultra and Burnt Sienna. More French Ultra, and I can make some little branches coming out. Those are kind of fun. I do not want this to be perfect. I want this to be crazy like the bush. I might go in now with the dark green and just put a couple little leaves, like there's just like a flick of a leaf up here, the one up there. I'm just kind of painting a few leaves. I kind of like that. I kind of like the spots there. One thing I really don't like is that green there. I might be able to get rid of that. So now down here, I don't mind these spots in there either. Here I feel like I need to have some more, not much, but I think what I'm going to do is the same thing. I'm going to put a few leaves over him so that we know that it's kind of in this part of this bush that it's just like going over him right there. Should I make this darker in here? Like that's all part of this bush coming down to him there. He's really kind of standing. He's got his feet in the bush. If I have all that on that side of him, I need to have some on this side. Although I don't need to have any anything going over his back. But here, I need to have that kind of, if I have this kind of mess here, I need to have this kind of mess on this side of him. And then, do I think that the front, do you think the bottom's done? Do we need just maybe some little leaves of the yellow in here? like that there. Let us know that his tail's going into the grasses. How about here? You know what? I'm gonna quit. I see one little spot that needs a little dark spot, and it's from his horn to his ear, right here. So we know that that's his ear. And then I'm going to make the tip a little bit bigger, and out here a little more. And his ears, I think that is what it looks like, but it doesn't feel like an ear. It doesn't look like an ear, even though I know that that's what this looks like. I guess I'm going to leave it because that's really what it looks like. I'm going to put the shadow behind the ear. Again, this is really dark. Okay, thank you. Thanks for watching.